Welcome. Tonight, let your mind drift into the quiet corners of the English language. You're about to hear a collection of rare and beautiful words, each one chosen for its uniqueness, its sound, and the way it settles gently on the tongue. There's no story to follow, no plot to remember, just a slow, peaceful unfolding of language, designed to lull you to sleep. The images will stay dark, but whimsical. The words will flow, and all you have to do is listen. Let's begin. Pabouche, a slipper. Pabulous, of, like or pertaining to nourishment. Pabulum, food, provender, nourishment. Packable, able to be appeased, willing to forgive. Pace, contrary to the opinion of, in respectful disagreement with. Pachydermia, elephantiasis. Pachyglossal, thick-tongued. Pachymeter, instrument for measuring small thicknesses. Pachinsis, thickening. Paciferous, peace-bringing. Pacificate, to give peace to. Pactolian, like or having golden-hued sands. Padella, shallow dish of fat with the wick used in the illuminations. Padrone, innkeeper, employer. Padronism, system of obtaining labour through employment agents. Paduasoy, corded silk. Paean, song of thanksgiving. Pedagogy, government by children. Pedobaptism, doctrine of infant baptism. Pedocracy, government by children. Pedarchy. Pedogenesis, reproduction by an infant or larval organism. Pedology, study of children. Pedonymic, name taken from one's child. Pedophage, eater of children. Pedophilia, abnormal love or sexual attraction for children. Pedophobia, fear of children, fear of dolls. Pedotrophy, art of rearing children. Paginal, of, like or pertaining to pages or pagination. Pagophagia, eating trays of ice to help offset iron deficiency. Paidutic, educational method or theory. Paedopsology, study of children's diseases, pediatrics. Pilette, a spangle. Pes, people from whom a jury is drawn. Paisley, soft wool fabric with ornamental pattern. Paisogony, necking, love play. Palabra, a word, talk. Palacious, spade-shaped. Paleoanthropology, study of early humans. Paleobiology, study of fossil plants and animals. Paleoclimatology, study of ancient climates. Paleogaia, the old world as a biological region. Paleogeography, study of ancient geography. Paleography, study of ancient writing or inscriptions. Paleolimnology, study of ancient fish or lakes. Paleopedology, study of early soils. Paleophile, antiquarian. Paleosophy, ancient learning or thought. Paleotypography, early typography. Palestra, wrestling school, gymnasium. Paleetiology, application of principles of causation to past events. Palafet, prehistoric lake dwelling. Palamate, having webbed feet. Palanquin, light litter for one passenger. Palatine, having royal authority over a region. Palative, pleasing to the taste or to the palate. Palatography, recording position of tongue against hard palate during speech. Palaver, to talk profusely or idly. Paleaceous, chaffy, like or resembling chaff. Paleobotany, study of ancient plants. Paleoosteology, study of ancient bones. Paletot, loose overcoat. Pallet, small plate covering the armpit joint in a suit of armour. pale-wise, of heraldic charges, oriented vertically. Palfrenier, groom. Palfrey, riding horse, especially one for a lady. Palification, the act of strengthening with stakes. Paliform, shaped like a stake. Palilalia, disorder characterized by rapid repetition of words. Palilogy, repetition of a word or phrase. Palimbachius, metrical foot of 2 long and 1 short syllable. Palimpsest, manuscript or paper that is erased and then written over. Palingenesis, new birth, reincarnation, second creation. Palingman, seller of fish or eels. Palinode, poem in which earlier thoughts or feelings are retracted. Palinola, compulsive repetition of an act until it is perfect. Palinspastic, showing geological formations of an area as they existed in the past. Palisade, fence of stakes used for defensive purposes. Pol, covering cloth laid upon communion chalice. Palladian, of like or pertaining to wisdom or learning. Palæsthesia, sense of vibration. Pallescent, turning pale. Palliament, white robe or gown. Pallias, straw mattress. Palliate, to ease without curing, to extenuate. Pallid, pale. One. Pallium, white woolen band symbolizing archbishop's authority. Palagraph, instrument measuring ship's vibration. Palmar, of, like or pertaining to the palm. Palmarian, preeminent. Palmary, principal, meritorious. Palmate, hand-shaped. Palmiped, web-footed. Palpebral, of, like or pertaining to the eyelid. Palpebration, winking. Palter, to trifle in talk, to use trickery, to equivocate. Paltock, short coat or doublet worn under armour. Paltropolitan, term of scorn applied to city dwellers or urban life. Paludal, of, like or pertaining to marshes, marshy, malarial. Paludicolous, growing in marshes, marsh dwelling. Paludism, marsh fever, malaria. Paludose, marshy, living in marshes. Palynology, study of pollen. Palzogony, love play, foreplay. Pam, card game in which jack of club has highest value. Pamphysicism, doctrine that material nature is the source of all things. Pampiniform, like a tendril. Panaceist, believer in panaceas. Panesthesia, totality of perception, general awareness. Panesthetism, theory that consciousness may inhere generally in matter. Panicky, universal rule or dominion. Panary, of, like or pertaining to bread, bread store. Panatella, long thin cigar. Pancheon, coarse earthenware pan. Pantreston, panacea. Pancosmism, theory that the material universe is all that exists. Pancratic, excelling all round in athletics or accomplishments. Pancyclopedic, encyclopedic. Pandation, warping. Pandect, treatise covering the whole of a subject. Pandemian, vulgar, sensual. Pandemic, universal, affecting majority of people in a region. Pandemonism, worship of spirits dwelling in all forms of nature. Pandiculation, the act of stretching and yawning. Pandora, musical instrument like a lute. Panduriform, fiddle-shaped. Panegoism, solipsism. Panegyric, elaborate and poetic compliment, eulogy, laudation. Panegyricon, collection of sermons for Orthodox Church festivals. Panegyri, grand assembly, religious festival. Paneity, the state of being bred. Panentheism, belief that world is part but not all of God's being. Pangamy, random or unrestricted mating. Pangeometry, extension of geometry to more than 3 dimensions. Panglossian, overly optimistic. Pangolin, scaly insect, ivorous mammal with elongated snout. Pangram, sentence containing all the letters of the alphabet. Panharmonicon, mechanical musical instrument operated by a cylinder. Panhygrous, moist in all parts. Panification, conversion into bread. Panivorous, bread eating. Panjandrum, imaginary potentate of great power and self-importance. Panlogism, belief that only that which is rational is truly real. Panmixia, cessation of the influence of natural selection. Panimnesia, belief that all mental impressions are stored in memory. Panage, food picked up by swine in woods, right to pasture swine. Pan, heavy lustrous silk or rayon with waxy feel. Panicle, thin sheet-like vestment. Pannier, provision basket, basket carried over one's back. Pannikin, small metal cup. Panos, like felt. Paniches, all-night vigil in preparation for Orthodox Church feast. Panomphaean, all oracular. Panophobia, melancholia marked by groundless fears. Panoply, complete suit of armour. Panoptic, all-embracing, viewing all aspects. Panopticon, prison where all inmates can be watched from one point. Panpharmacon, universal remedy. Panplane, flat area consisting of several joined floodplains. Panpsychism, theory that all nature has a psychic side. Panpygoptosis, shortness of the legs. Pansexualism, theory that all thought derived from sexual instinct. Pansophy, universal knowledge. Panspermatism, belief in origin of life from extraterrestrial germs. Pantagamy, universal bachelorhood, free love. Pantagruelian, marked by extravagant and coarse satire. Pantaleon, large dulcimer. Pantarchy, government by all the people, world government. Pantechnicon, receptacle holding many miscellaneous objects. Pantheism, belief that the universe is God, belief in many gods. Pantisocracy, government by all equally. Pantler, officer in a household in charge of bread. Pantachronometer, combined sundial and compass. Pantaglot, speaker of all languages. Pantograph, apparatus connecting streetcar to overhead wires. Pantograph, instrument for copying drawing to a different scale. Pantography, complete or general description of something. Pantology, system of universal knowledge. Pantomnesia, remembrance of everything ever learned. Pantomorphic, taking on all shapes. Pantophagy, omnivorousness. Pantophobia, fear of everything. Pantopragmatic, meddling in everybody's business. Pantoscope, panoramic camera. Pantosophy, universal knowledge. Pansophy, panergic, good at all kinds of tasks. Panzoism, belief that humans and animals share vital life energy. Papachi, government by the Pope. Papaverus, of, like or pertaining to poppies. Papeterie, packaged fancy stationery. Stationery, case. Papilionaceous, of, like or pertaining to butterflies. Papilla, nipple-like projection. Papilliferous, bearing papillae. Papilliform, nipple-shaped. Papillose, having nipples or papillae. Pappus, downy beginnings of a beard. Papren, stone passing through a wall from face to face. Papulation, the development of papillae or pimples. Papule, pimple. Papuliferous, pimply, bearing or pertaining to pimples. Paperaceous, like paper, papery. Papyrocracy, government by newspapers or literature. Papyrography, process of transferring a drawing on paper to a zinc plate. Papyrology, study of paper. Papyrotamia, manufacture of paper flowers. Parabasis, speech where the chorus advances and addresses audience. Parabiosis, physical union of two embryos or organisms. Parablepsis, false vision, oversight. Parabola, rhetorical use of simile or metaphor. Parabolanus, layman who tends the sick. Parabolaster, a parabola of a higher degree. Paraboliform, shaped like a parabola. Parabolist, teller of parables. Paracentral, situated near the centre. Parachronism, representation of something as being newer than it is. Paraclete, advocate or intercessor, the Holy Spirit acting in such a role. Paracme, decline, period following the zenith or acme. Paracoita, female sexual partner. Paracoitus, male sexual partner. Paracrostic, poem whose initial letters reproduce its first verse. Paracasis, disordered hearing. Paradiastole, description of an unfavourable quality through a favourable synonym. Paradigma, rhetorical comparison by resemblance to another thing. Paradisiacal, suggestive of a place or state of perfect bliss. Parados, earthworks defending against a rear attack. Paradoxography, description of phenomena considered fantastic or wondrous. Paradoxology, holding or maintaining paradoxes. Paradromic, adjacent, side by side. Parenesis, rhetorical expression of advice or warning. Paresthesia, tingling sensation on the skin. Parage, high birth or rank, equality of birth or status. Paragenesis, formation of minerals as a joined mass. Paragnosia, misunderstanding. Paragnosis, skill in matters immune to scientific investigation. Paragog, addition of a sound to end of word. Paragram, play on words in which letters are changed. Paragraphia, writing of different letters and words than intended. Paragraphy, writing of paragraphs. Parakinesis, production of movement of objects by a spiritualist. Paralalia, abnormality of speech sounds. Paralipomenon, thing left out, added in supplement. Paralepsis, fixing attention on subject by pretending to neglect it. Parallax, seeming change of object position due to observer moving. Parallelepiped, solid figure with each face a parallelogram. Parallelism, belief that matter and mind don't interact but relate. Paralogize, to reason falsely. Paralogism, false reasoning. Paramatter, worsted and cotton blend. Paramedian, near the middle line. Parament, rich decoration. Hanging or robe. Paramnesia, abnormality of memory, inability to remember meaning of word. Paranatelon, a star that rises at the same time as another star. Paranomasia, rhetorical art of punning. Paranym euphemism, word whose meaning altered to conceal evasion. Paranymph, one who solicits for another, best man or bridesmaid. Paraph, flourish under one's signature. Paraphasia, disorder in which one word substituted for another. Paraphilia, any abnormal sexual attraction. Paraphonia, alteration of the voice, as at puberty. Paraphrased, one who paraphrases. Paraphraxis, inability to perform purposive movements properly. Parapraxis, blunder, error, mistake. Parapsychology, study of unexplained mental phenomena. Parathria, incoherence. Paraselene, mock moon, bright patch on a lunar halo. Parasigmatism, inability to pronounce the sounds. Parasitaster, a mean or sorry parasite. Parasiticide, killing of parasites. Parastatal, indirectly controlled by the state. Parastatic, of, like or pertaining to protective mimicry of animals. Parasuicide, harmful act appearing to be an attempt at suicide. Parasynesis, corruption of forms of words. Parasynthesis, derivation of words using hyphenated compounds. Parataxis, organization of clauses without connectives. Parathesis, apposition, compounding of words without change. Paratonic, arresting growth. Paravail, inferior, lowest, of least account. Paravane, device used to cut underwater cables. Paravant, in front, first, beforehand. Paravent, windscreen. Parbrake, to vomit. Parbuckle, sling made by wrapping both ends of rope around object. Parcel, partly. Parsonry, co-airship. Parsiloquy, laconic speech. Parclose, railing in church enclosing altar, chapel or tomb. Pardy, mild oath, certainly or truly. Pardine, of, like or pertaining to leopards. Pardoner, one who raises money for religious works by selling indulgences. Pericbasis, rhetorical digression or deviation from expected topic. Paregmenon, repetition of a word or its cognates in a series of words. Paragoric, soothing, lessening pain. Parembole, insertion of something related to the subject into a phrase. Peremptosis, insertion of something related to the subject into a phrase. Parentalia, feasts or rites in memory of deceased parents. Parentelic, related by blood. Parenticide, killing or killer of one's parents. Paragon, work undertaken in addition to one's employment. Paraschatology, doctrine dealing with matters after death but before the end of the world. Paresis, omission of an element from a word. Pariunia, coitus. Parfait, by my faith. Verily, parflesh, dried buffalo skin. Parjet, to plaster over, to cover with ornamental plasterwork. Parhelion, halo-like light seen in sky opposite the sun. Pai passu, side by side, equally. Paribuntal, fine straw used to make hats. Parietal, of a wall or walls, especially anatomical walls. Parietals, school rules regarding intergender contact. Parine, of, like or pertaining to titmouses. Parison, lump of glass before it is moulded into its final shape. Parison, even balance of elements in a sentence. Parasthemion, tonsil. Parasyllabic, having the same number of syllables in all forms. Parity, condition or fact of having borne children. Parlous, full of danger or risk. Parnassian, poetic. Parnell, mistress or concubine of a priest. Harlot. Parochial, local, confined to one region. Paradinia, difficult childbirth. Paroemia, proverb or adage used in argumentation. Paroemiographer, writer of proverbs. Proemiography, writing of proverbs, a treatise of proverbs. Proemiology, study of proverbs. Paramoion, alliteration. Paramoion, starting statement with several words starting with the same letter. Paramologia, partial admission of opponent's argument to strengthen one's final position. Paramology, concession of opponent's point to strengthen one's own point. Paranomasia, play on words, punning. Paronym, word from same root or having same sound as another. Parorexia, desire to eat strange foods. Parotic, near or adjacent to the ear. Paras, bearing or having borne offspring. Parousia, second coming of Christ. Parousia mania, obsession with the second coming of Christ. Paroxysm, fit of passion, laughter, coughing, sudden violent action. Paroxytone, having an acute accent on the next to last syllable. Parquet, floor covering of fitted wooden blocks. Par, young salmon, barrel, band by which a yard is fastened to a mast. Parrhesia, asking forgiveness in advance for frank or bold speech. Parricide, killing of parent or close relative. Pass, to describe a word fully in terms of classification. Parsonarchy, government by parsons. Parterre, pit of a theatre. Parthenian, of, like or pertaining to virgins. Parthenogenesis, reproduction by a virgin or by means of an unfertilized egg. Parthenolatry, worship of the Virgin Mary. Parthenology, study of virgins. Parthephobia, fear of virgins. Partible, that may be divided up or parted. Particularism, belief that only a few are chosen for salvation. Partim, in part. Partitive, indicating a part of a larger whole. Partocracy, government by a single unopposed political party. Parturition, the act of giving birth. Parure, a set of ornaments or jewels. Parvenimity, smallness of mind. Parvenu, one suddenly risen to wealth without great social rank. Parvipotent, having little power. Parvis, enclosed space at the front of a church. Parviciant, having little knowledge. Pasquale, growing on land used for grazing, of like or pertaining to pastures. Paseo, leisurely stroll, march of bullfighters into arena. Passguard, armour for left arm and elbow to protect from lance strike while jousting. Pashmina, fine goat's wool fabric used for making shawls. Pasigraphy, a system of universal ideographic writing. Pasodoble, quick Spanish one-step dance. Pasquilant lampooner, pasquon to lampoon, pasquinade, to lampoon, a lampoon. Pasquinian satirical. Passacaglia, slow solemn Italian or Spanish dance. Passade, motion of horse to and fro over ground in dressage. Passalaurinchite, one who takes a religious vow of silence. Passant, heraldic animal depicted walking. Passament, decorative trimming of beads or braid. Passipede, Breton dance resembling a quick minuet. Passerine, of like or pertaining to sparrows. Passable, susceptible to or capable of suffering or of feeling. Passim, everywhere, dispersedly. Passimeter, instrument for issuing automatic tickets. Passioncle, minor or lesser passion. Passivate, to coat metal with oxides to protect from corrosion. Passulate, to dry grapes. Passus, section of a poem or story. Pastance, pastime, pastern, rope, strap or chain used to tie horse by its leg, pastiche, medley composed from different sources, imitative work, pastille, small cone of charcoal burned as incense, pastos, painted thickly, pastorelle, medieval poem between knight and shepherdess, patagium, wing membrane of flying mammal, pataphysics, the science of imaginary solutions, patation, act of drinking, patavinity, provincialism, dialectal term, patefaction, disclosure, opening, manifestation, patelliform, shaped like a saucer or kneecap, paten, plate, metal disc used to hold communion bread, pateriform, saucer-shaped, pathic, passive, a passive subject, pathogenesis, causation or production of disease, pathognomic, indicative of a specific disease, pathography, life history used to trace a disease or disorder, pathomania, moral insanity, pathophobia, fear of disease, pathopoeia, excitation of passion by rhetoric or poetry, patable, capable of suffering or being acted on, passable, patibulary, of, like or pertaining to the gallows, patibulate, to execute by hanging, patina, film or surface that forms on surface of metal or wood, patination, formation of a film on copper from exposure, patrial, of, like or pertaining to one's native land, patrimony, inheritance from father or ancestors, patriolatry, excessive devotion or worship of one's native country, patroclinus, having inherited paternal characteristics, patrology, study of early Christianity, patronym, name derived from father's name, patroon, kapitein van een schip, stuurman van een lange boot, patruity, degree of relationship of paternal uncle, pate, narrow band keeping a belt or sash in its place, pattern, wooden shoe, clog, base of a pillar, patulous, spreading, wide-spreading, open, porciloquent, of few words, speaking little, pauldron, shoulder plate of suit of armour, past, just finished or past, post, just after, pavage, charge for paving streets, pavan, stately English Renaissance court dance, pavé, setting of jewellery with stones close together, pavid, timid, pavior, one who lays down paving stones, pavis, shield for the entire body, pavonated, peacock blue, pavonian of, like or pertaining to peacocks, pavonine, of, like or pertaining to peacocks, pax, tablet decorated with sacred figure and kissed by participants in mass, paxillos, resembling a small stake, paynimry, heathendom, paysage, landscape, paysagist, painter of landscapes, peatari, region, bog or moor covered with peat, peau de soie, soft, heavy, closely woven silk, peavy, lumberman's spiked and hooked lever, peccable, liable to sin, peccadillo, a slight offence or sin, peccaminus, sinful, peccancy, sinfulness, transgression, peccary, tropical New World pig-like mammal, peccavi, admission of sin or guilt, peck, unit of dry measure equal to 8 quarts, pecorous, full of cows, pectinal, of a comb, comb-like, pectination, comb-like structure, pectineal, of the pubic bone, pectiniform, shaped like a comb, pectise, to congeal, to cause to set, pectoral armour for the breast of a person or horse, Pectoriloquy, sound of patient's voice as heard through stethoscope. Pectuncle, cockle. Pecudiculture, rearing of cattle. Peculation, embezzlement. Peculium, private property, especially when given by father to son. Pecuniary, of, like or pertaining to money, consisting of money. Ped, naturally formed mass or aggregate of soil. Pedagogics, study of teaching. Pedagogery, schoolmastering, teaching. Pedalian, of, like or pertaining to the foot or to metrical feet. Pedanius, going on foot. Pedestrian, of lowly or petty standing. Pedantocracy, government by pedants or strict rule-bound scholars. Pedary, of, like or pertaining to walking or feet. Pedate, footed, having feet like a foot. Pedrasty, anal intercourse between a man and a boy. Pedatentus, proceeding slowly. Pedicle, stalk of an animal organ. Pedicle, bony protrusion of the skull from which an antler grows. Pedicular, of, like or pertaining to lice. Pediculicide, killing of lice. Pediculophobia, fear of lice. Pediculus, lousy. Pediform, shaped like a foot. Pedigerous, having or bearing feet. Pediluvium, foot bath. Pedominus, having feet shaped like hands. Pediment, triangular structure crowning front of a Greek building. Pedipulate, to work or knead with the feet. Pedography, description of soil types. Pedological, of like or pertaining to soils. Pedology, study of soils. Pedomancy, divination by examining the soles of the feet. Pedometer, instrument for measuring distance travelled on foot. Peduncle, stem or stalk of a flower. Pegamoid, artificial leather. Pegomancy, divination by springs or fountains. Peignoir, woman's dressing gown. Parameter, instrument measuring resistance of road surfaces to wheel movement. Perastic, experimental, tentative. Pese, weight, burden, load. Pejorate, to worsen, to depreciate. Perjurism, severe pessimism. Pekin, fine soft silk. Pelage, animal's coat of hair or wool. Pelagic, oceanic, inhabiting or carried out in the deep sea. Pelagic, of, like or pertaining to storks. Pelasgic, nomadic, pelatast, ancient Greek shield-bearing soldier. Pelacoid, shaped like a hatchet-shaped geometrical figure. Pelerine, woman's fur cape. Pelisse, fur-lined or fur garment. Pelletic, composed of fine sediment. Pellet, to divide, to separate. Pellicle, thin skin or film. Pellicule, thin diaphanous fabric. Pellucid, completely clear, transparent. Pelma, sole of foot. Pelmatogram, footprint. Pelmet, fringe or valance for hiding a curtain rod. Peloid, mud or other semi-solid medium used in baths. Pelology, study of mud. Pelotherapy, treatment by mud baths. Peltistiform, shield-shaped. Peltiferous, bearing a shield. Peltry, skins of animals with the fur on them. Pelurious, furry, hairy. Pelviform, basin-shaped. Pelvigraphy, examination of the pelvis. Pelvimeter, instrument for measuring the pelvis. Pembroke, small four-legged table with hinged flaps. Pemphigus, skin condition characterized by watery boils on the body. Penacute, having an acute accent on the penultimate syllable. Proxy tone. Penanggalan, female vampire of Malay mythology. Penannular, in the form of an almost complete ring. Penates, household gods of a Roman family. Penciliform, paintbrush-shaped. Penduloque, drop pendant. Pendant, hanging, drooping, dangling. Pendicle, pendant, dependency or appendage. Pendula, of, like or pertaining to a pendulum. Pendulen, building a pendulous nest. Pendulograph, curve representing combination of musical sounds. Pena contemporaneous, of geological processes occurring immediately after deposition. Penectomy, surgical removal of the penis. Penelopize, to create work as an excuse to deter suitors. Peneplain, land worn down by denudation to almost be a plain. Penes, in the possession of. Penetralia, inmost parts of a building or temple. Innermost secrets. Penetrometer, instrument for measuring firmness or consistency of substances. Penial, of, like or pertaining to the penis. Penicillate, having small tufts or bristles. Pennaceous, feather-like. Pennate, winged, feathered, peniferous, bearing feathers. Penniform, feather-shaped. Pennyweight, unit of troy weight equal to 24 grains. Penology, study of crime and punishment. Pencil, hanging, suspended, overhanging. Pensum, task, school imposition. Pentad, set of 5 things. Pentagamist, person who has or has had 5 spouses. Pentalogy, state of being in 5 parts. Pentamerous, having 5 parts or members. Pentapolis, alliance of 5 cities. Pentarchy, government by 5 individuals. Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. Penthrophobia, fear or hatred of one's mother-in-law. Pentimento, revealing of part of a painting beneath a newer one. Penury, destitution, poverty. Peotillomania, abnormal compulsion for pulling on the penis. Peotomy, surgical removal of the penis. Per, through, according to, by means or agency of. Peracute, very sharp or violent, very acute. Peradventure, perhaps, possibly, by adventure, by chance. Perigrate, to travel over or through. Percale, closely woven lightweight cloth. Percaline, glossy lightweight cotton. Perceptionalism, belief that humans perceive things as they truly are. Percheron, dappled cart horse. Percipient, perceiving, observant, perceptive. Percocked, well cooked, overdone. Percurrent, running through the whole length. Percutaneous, done or applied through the skin. Percusient, striking or having the power to strike. Percussive. Perdicene, of, like or pertaining to partridges. Perdricide, killer of partridges. Perduellion, treason. Perdure, to endure over a period of time. Perigal, fully equal. Peregrination, journey, especially on foot or to a foreign country. Peregrinity, foreignness, outlandishness. Perenate, to live perennially, to survive from season to season. Perequitate, to ride through on horseback. Perfectibilian, believer in the perfectibility of mankind. Perfectibilism, doctrine that humans capable of becoming perfect. Perfectionism, doctrine that moral perfection constitutes the highest value. Perfervid, very fervid, ardent, eager, proficient, effectual, actually achieving a result. Perfuse, to pour or diffuse through or over. Pergameneous, like or resembling parchment. Pergola, arched framework for climbing plants. Periaster, point in orbit of a body in which it is nearest to a specified star. Peribolos, precinct, enclosing wall of a precinct. Pericentral, surrounding a centre or central body. Periclinal, sloping downwards in all directions from a point. Periclitate, to endanger, to jeopardize. Pericope, an excerpt or passage read during religious services. Periculous, dangerous. Perigesis, description in the manner of a tour, journey through. Periergia, use of elevated style to discuss a trivial matter. Periodontics, study of gums. Periesi, individuals living at same latitude on opposite sides of Earth. Periotic, around the ear. Peripatetic, wandering about, itinerant. Peripetia, sudden change of fortune. Periphrasis, circumlocution, roundabout expression. Periplus, a voyage or trip around something. Peripteral, having a row of columns on every side. Priscian, person living inside the polar circle. Perispomenon, having a circumflex accent on the final syllable. Perisology, verbiage, pleonasm. Perisosyllabic, having an additional syllable. Perisotomist, knife-happy surgeon. Peristalith, ancient stone circle. Peristeronic, of, like or pertaining to pigeons. Peristerophilie, pigeon collecting. Peristrophic, moving round, revolving, rotatory. Peristyle, range of columns around a building or courtyard. Peritectic, in the state between solid and liquid, melting. Periwinkle, a bluish or azure colour, a plant with bluish flowers. Perlacious, pearly, perlative, indicating movement through or across. Perliginous, producing pearls. Perlocution, effect produced when a particular word is uttered. Perlustrate, to traverse and inspect carefully. Permeameter, instrument for measuring permeability. Pernicious, destructive, ruinous, fatal. Pernoctate, to pass the night in vigil or prayer. Pernor, one who takes or receives. Peroral, through the mouth. Perorate, to speak grandiosely or grandiloquently. Peroration, lengthy part of speech, especially a conclusion. Perpend, to weigh in the mind, to consider carefully. Perpilocutionist, one who speaks through his hat. Perron, raised platform or terrace at an entrance door. Perruquier, wig-maker. Perscrutation, thorough search. Purse, dark blue or bluish-grey, cloth of such a colour. Persity, independent existence. Perseverate, to repeat an action continually or habitually. Persiennes, outside shutters with movable slats. Persiflage, banter, flippancy, idle chatter. Personalia, personal details, possessions or stories. Personalism, doctrine that humans possess spiritual freedom. Personality, personal belongings and property. Perspectography, theory of drawing according to rules of perspective. Perspicacious, clear-minded, astute, perceptive. Perspicuous, easily understood, clearly expressed. Perstringe, to constrain, to touch on, to censure. pertinacity, quality of holding unyieldingly to a position. Pertusse, punched, pierced, slit. Pertusses, whooping cough. Peruke, a frilly wig. Perulate, scaly, having scaled skin. Pervicacious, very obstinate. Pervigilium, night vigil. Pervious, permeable, penetrable. Pessary, suppository inserted into the vagina. Pessimal, least favourable. Pessimum, point at which any condition is least favourable. Pessomancy, divination using pebbles. Pestiferous, bringing plague or pestilence. Pestology, science of pests. Petaliferous, bearing petals. Pettery, peat bog. Petterist, flying phalanger. Petcock, valve for draining condensed steam from engine cylinders. Petrary, contrivance for hurling stones. Petrine, of, like or pertaining to or made of rock. Petrel, long-winged seabird with hooked bill. Petrichor, pleasant smell accompanying the first rain after a dry spell. Petriculus, living in or near rocks. Petrissage, massage by longitudinal rubbing and lateral squeezing. Petrogenesis, formation or development of rocks. Petroleus, containing or rich in petroleum. Petroliferous, bearing petroleum. Petrology, study of rocks. Petrophilus, living on or thriving in rocky areas. Petrus, stony. Pettifogger, a lawyer given to underhanded tactics. Pettitoes, pig's feet as food. Petulcus, butting like a ram. Petuncle, small scallop. Pew fellow, one who occupies the same pew as another. Pexity, roughness of the nap of cloth. Patral, armour for a horse's breast. Phacocoerine, of like or pertaining to warthogs. Phacoid, lens-shaped. Phacometer, instrument for measuring lenses. Phaic, dusky. Theism, duskiness. Phaeton, open four-wheeled carriage. Phagomania, excessive desire for food or eating. Phagophobia, fear of eating. Phakic, of an eye, having a crystalline lens. Phallocrosis, baldness. Phalanstry, dwelling of a communal group or phalanx of individuals. Phalarope, migratory shorebird with lobed feet. Phallophoric, carrying the penis. Phallic, of pertaining to or resembling a penis. Phallocracy, government by men. Phallocrat, one who assumes the naturality of male dominance. Phaneromania, habit of biting one's nails. Phanerosis, act or process of becoming visible. Phanic, visible, obvious. Phanopoeia, visual imagery and poetry. Phantasmatography, scientific description of rainbows and other luminous atmospheric phenomena. Phaeometer, old instrument for measuring light intensity. Pharisaic, hypocritical. Pharmacognosy, study of drugs of animal and plant origin. Pharmacology, study of drugs. Pharmacomania, abnormal obsession with trying drugs. Pharmacometer, instrument for measuring drugs. Pharmacopolist, drug seller, pharmacist, apothecary. Pharology, study of lighthouses. Pharos, lighthouse or beacon. Pharyngography, description of the pharynx. Pharyngology, study of the throat. Pharyngoscope, instrument for inspecting the pharynx. Fascicate, lead-coloured agate. Phatic, using speech for social reasons or to communicate feelings. Phelum cork, phelloid, cork-like. Phelloplastic, a model in cork. Phememe, smallest possible linguistic unit. Phemic, of, like or pertaining to speech. Phenakistoscope, early cinematograph in which figures are viewed through a slit. Phonetic, of, like or pertaining to classification by phenotype. Phengite, bright and beautiful kind of alabaster. Phengophobia, fear of daylight. Phenogenesis, origin of racial groups. Phenology, study of organisms as affected by climate. Phenomenalism, belief that phenomena are the only realities. Phenomenology, study of phenomena. Phaeon, the barbed head of a dart or arrow in heraldry. Ferretra, keeper of a shrine. Phialiform, saucer-shaped. Phylline, resembling a file. Philolethist, lover of truth. Philately, study of postage stamps. Philematology, the act or study of kissing. Philematophobe, one who dislikes kissing. Philippic, loving or admiring horses. Philippic, speech or writing full of bitter condemnation. Philistine, materialistic in outlook, uncultured. Philumeny, collecting of matchbox labels. Philocoly, love of beauty. Philodemic, fond of commoners or the lower classes. Philodox, one who loves his own opinions, dogmatic person. Phylogeny, love of women. Philologaster, petty or contemptible philologist. Philology, study of ancient texts, historical linguistics. Philomath, lover of learning. Philomelian, of like or pertaining to nightingales. Philonoist, one who seeks knowledge. Philopornist, lover of prostitutes. Philo, progenitive, of, like or pertaining to instinctive love for offspring. Philosophaster, amateur or superficial philosopher. Philosophicide, one who kills or wishes to kill philosophers or philosophy. Philosophocracy, government by philosophers. Philosophuncule, petty or minor philosopher. Philotechnical, devoted to the arts. Philotherianism, love of animals. Philoxenia, hospitality. Philter, love potion or charm, a drug to produce some magical effect. Phimosis, inability to retract the prepuce of the penis. Phlebography, description or examination of a vein. Phlebology, study of the veins and their diseases. Phlebotomy, bloodletting. Phlegmatic, of a calm, unexcitable disposition. Phlogiston, non-existent principle of flammability inherent in matter. Phlogogenetic, causing inflammation. Phocene, of like or pertaining to seals. Phocomelia, having limbs like a seal's flippers. Phoenicius, bright scarlet-red colour. Phenicopter, flamingo. Pholidosis, arrangement of scales as in fish and reptiles. Phone, unit of loudness of sound as heard by listeners. Phonascus, person who maintains rhythm in church choir. Phonesthenia, weakness of voice. Phonation, production of vocal sound. Phonautograph, instrument for recording sound vibrations. Phonendoscope, device which amplifies small sounds. Phonesis, production of speech sounds. Phoniatrics, study and correction of speech defects. Phonography, recording of sound by means of a phonograph. Phonomania, pathological tendency to murder. Phonometer, instrument for measuring sound levels. Phonophobia, fear of noise or of speaking aloud. Phonophorus, transmitting sound waves. Phonus balonus, exaggerated trickery or nonsense. Pharynx, seven-stringed Greek lyre. Phorometer, instrument used to correct abnormalities in eye muscles. Phoropter, device with several lenses used to test eyesight. Phosphene, light seen when the eyeball is pressed. Phossy, caused by phosphorus. Photosthesia, sense of vision. Photic, light-giving, sensitive to light, penetrated by light. Photism, illusory vision of light. Photobiology, study of effects of light on organisms. Photodromy, motion towards light. Photoglyph, photographic engraving. Photogyric, turning towards light. Photolysis, disintegration resulting from exposure to radiation. Photomania, pathological desire for light. Photometer, instrument for measuring light intensity. Photon, unit of brightness of light as received at the retina. Photophile, organism loving or thriving in light. Photophilus, preferring or thriving in lighted conditions. Photophobia, fear of light. Photophagus, avoiding or disliking light. Photopia, vision in bright light. Photopolarimeter, instrument for measuring intensity and polarization of reflected light. Photopsia, appearance of light flashes due to retinal irritation. Photosphere, region of space lit by the sun. Phototachometer, instrument for measuring the speed of light. Phototaxis, growth or movement determined by light. Phototelegraph, instrument for transmitting drawings telegraphically. Phototonus, sensitivity to light. Phraseography, representation of whole phrases with individual signs or symbols. Phraseology, study of phrases. Phratry, clan or tribe. Phreatic, of, like or pertaining to underground water supplying or wells. Phrenesis, delirium, frenzy. Phrenic, of or near the midriff. Phrenography, observation and description of mental phenomena. Phrenology, study of bumps on the head. Frontistery, a thinking place, place for study. Phthartic, deadly, destructive. Phetherophagus, lice-eating. Physiotherapeutics, medical treatment of tuberculosis. Phthongal, of, pertaining to or consisting of a sound, vocalized. Phthongometer, instrument measuring intensity of vowel sounds. Phugoid, of, like or pertaining to the longitudinal stability of aircraft. Phycology, study of algae and seaweeds. Phygogalactic, halting milk production. Phylactic, defending against disease. Phylarchy, government by a specific class or tribe. Phyli, division of the people of a state into local clans. Filiform, shaped like a leaf. Philine, leaf-like. Philomancy, divination using leaves or tea leaves. Philomania, excessive or abnormal production of leaves. Philophagus, leaf-eating. Philophorus, leafy, bearing or having leaves. Phylogenesis, origin and history of a species' evolution. Physiogog, substance causing flatulence. Physicalism, belief that all phenomena are reducible to verifiable assertions. Physiocracy, government according to natural laws or principles. Physiognomancy, divination by studying the face. Physiognomy, general appearance of anything, especially the face. Physiography, description of landforms or natural features of the environment. physiolatry, nature worship. Physiologus, work containing descriptions of animals, a bestiary. Physiophilosophy, system of knowledge concerning principles of natural history. Physiosophy, assumption of knowledge of nature. Physitheism, attribution of physical form and attributes to deities. Physiurgic, due to natural causes. Phytivorous, feeding on plants. Phytogenesis, origin and development of plants. Phytogenic, derived from plants. Phytography, description or treatise on plants. Phytoid, plant-like. Phytology, study of plants, botany. Phytomania, obsession with collecting plants. Phytopathology, study of diseases of plants. Phytophilus, fond of plants. Phytosophy, knowledge of plants. Piacula, expiatory, atrociously bad. Pianet, small upright piano. Pibcorn, old Welsh instrument like a hornpipe. Pibroch, piece of music for bagpipe. Pica, craving to eat dust. Picamar, bitter oily liquid obtained from tar. Picaresque, of, like or pertaining to rogues or roguish behaviour. Picaroon, person who lives by his or her wits, rogue or scoundrel. Picayune, 5-cent piece or other coin of little value. Pisceus, like pitch, inflammable, reddish-black. Pichi, small dark Argentinian armadillo. Pichichillo, small South American armadillo. Pisiform, of the form or shape of a woodpecker. Pisiform, of the nature of or resembling pitch. Piscine, of, like or pertaining to woodpeckers. Pickelhaube, spiked helmet. Pickery, petty theft under Scottish law. Pixum, particular, picky. Pick-thank, sycophant. Flatterer. Pico, loop in an ornamental edging, raised knot in embroidery. Pictography, representation of ideas by means of pictures. Piddle, nonsense, piebald, of an animal consisting of 2 or more colours. Pied, variegated, of various colours. Piedroit, square pillar attached to wall, lacking both base and capital. Piend, a salient angle. Peerage, fee paid for use of a peer. Pieta, representation of Virgin Mary with dead Christ across her knees. Pietism, unquestioning or dogmatic religious devotion. Piezometer, instrument for measuring pressure or compressibility. Piggin, small pail or bowl made of staves and hoops. Pite, to pitch. Pigmentocracy, government by those of one skin colour. Pignorate, to give or take in pledge or pawn. Pigsconce blockhead. Pigwash, rubbish, nonsense. Pica, rabbit-like mountain-dwelling mammal with rounded ears. Pilaster, square column partially embedded in a wall. Pilch, fur or wool outer garment, rug laid over saddle. Pilcrow, paragraph mark. Pile, upside-down wedge at an acute angle on a coat of arms. Pileated, cap-shaped, crested, capped. Pileform, shaped like an umbrella. Pileum, top of a bird's head. Pileus, umbrella-shaped portion of a mushroom. Pilgarlic, poor wretch, self-pitying person. Piliferous, bearing or growing hair. Piliform, shaped like hair. Pillion, light pillow or saddle for a woman rider. Pillywinks, torture instrument for crushing fingers. Pillory, wooden frame with holes for head and hands used as punishment. Pilos, having scattered soft or moderately stiff hairs. Pilule, little pill. Piment, spiced sweetened wine. Pinacotheca, picture gallery. Pinafore, loose protective garment worn over a dress. Pinchbeck, cheap copper and zinc alloy, spurious or trashy. Pinder, one who impounds cattle. Pneal, shaped like a pine cone. Pinetum, collection or plantation of pine trees. Pingo, cone-shaped mound with ice core. Pingafi, to become or make fat or greasy, to make rich. Pinguid, fat. Pinion, small wheel with teeth. Pinion, wing, last joint of a wing, outermost flight feather. Pinnace, small vessel with oars and sails. Pinnet, shaped like a feather. Pinniped, seals, walruses, and other such sea mammals. Pintle, bolt or pin on which something turns as a hinge. Piolet, ice axe, peeper, Chinese lute. Pipe, unit of liquid capacity equal to 2 hogsheads. Pipistrelle, small reddish-brown bat. Pipkin, small pot. Piquet, stiff, durable corded fabric of cotton, rayon or silk. Piscary, the rite of fishing, a fishing pond. Piscatology, study of fishes. Piscatorial, of, like or pertaining to fishing or fishers. Piscicapturist, fisherman. Piscicide, substance that kills fish. Piscifauna, fish life of an area. Pisciform, shaped like a fish. Piscina, basin set in wall of church to drain away ceremonial water. Piscine, of, like or pertaining to fish. Piscivorous, fish-eating. Pisiform, shaped like a pea. Pismire, an ant, something or someone insignificant. Pismirism, hoarding of small or insignificant things. Pistiology, science or study of faith. Pistiology, doctrine concerning faith. Pistolography, instantaneous photography. Pistology, branch of theology concerned with faith. Pitchometer, instrument for measuring angles of ships' propeller blades. Piteous, arousing or deserving pity. Pitiroid, bran-like. Pixelated, bemused, bewildered, intoxicated. Pizzle, bull's penis used as instrument of punishment by flogging. Plaquage, covering of walls with thin marble slabs or with plaster. Placard, thick metal reinforced plate of armour for back or breast. Placé, investor who is sold shares by private placement. Placentiform, cake-shaped. Placentigerous, bearing a placenta. Placentography, examination or imagery of the placenta. Placentophagy, eating of the placenta. Placet, vote of assent in a governing body. Placitum, decision of a court or an assembly. Placket, opening in a skirt or shirt for a pocket. Placoid, plate-like, having plate-like scales. Plafond, decorated ceiling. Plaget, marked with a streak or streaks. Plage, fashionable beach. Plagiary, one who plagiarizes. Plagium, the crime of kidnapping. Plainstones, flagstone side pavement of a street. Planation, making level. Planchet, blank metal disc to be stamped as a coin. Planchette, board or similar tool used in interpreting spirit messages. Planetesimal, of, like or pertaining to asteroids or similar tiny celestial bodies. Planetic, erring, erratic. Planetogeny, theory of the origin of planets. Planetography, description or treatise on the planets. Planetilatry, worship of the planets. planetology, study of planets, plangency, resonance, noisiness, plangent, deep or loud sounding, plangorous, mournful, planograph, instrument for copying drawings at a different scale, planigraphy, drawing of ground plans, planiloquent, speaking plainly, planimeter, instrument for measuring area of plane figures, planipennate, having flat, broad wings, planish, to polish, to flatten, planisphere, sphere projected onto a plane, map of the heavens, planety, the quality of being plane, plankwise, in the manner or direction of a plank, planography, cartography, planomania, abnormal desire to wander and disobey social norms, planster, petty or poor planner, planter, of, like or pertaining to the sole of the foot, plantigrade, walking fully on the soles of the feet, plantivorous, plant-eating, plantocracy, government by plantation owners, plapper, to make sounds with the lips, plash, dash of water, plashy, full of pools or puddles, marshy or boggy, plasmophagus, consuming plasma, plastography, art of forging handwriting, plastron, fencer's padded breast shield, steel breastplate worn under hauberk, platiliform, spoon-billed, of the shape of a spoonbill, platband, flat moulding that exceeds its projection, fillet between columns flutings, platasm, broad speech, talking with the mouth open too wide, platilla, fine white linen, platiniferous, bearing platinum, platitude, commonplace or trite remark made as if it were important, platitudinarian, one who utters platitudes, platometer, instrument for measuring area, planimeter, platen, to flatten into a plate or sheet, platurus, flat-tailed, platypodia, flat-footedness, platypussery, building or pen where platypuses are kept, platysma, broad sheet of muscle in the neck, plauditory, issuing enthusiastic approval or applause, plaustral, of, like or pertaining to a wagon, playa, basin which becomes a shallow lake after heavy rainfall, pleach, to intertwine the branches of, pleasance, pleasure, enjoyment, complacence, plebania, mother church having authority over several local churches, plebeian, of the common people or vulgar classes, plebification, making something vulgar or plebeian, plebiscitarism, principle or practice of using plebiscites, plectile, woven or plaited, plectrum, pick for stringed instruments, pledget, wad of cotton or lint used to dress a wound, plegometer, instrument for measuring the strength of a blow, pleomery, condition of having more than the normal number, pleomorphy, occurrence of several distinct stages in the life cycle of an organism, plemirameter, instrument for measuring variations in water level, plenary, full, entire, complete, absolute, unqualified, plenicorn, having solid horns, as a deer, pleniloquence, excessive talking, fullness of speech, pleniluna, of, like or pertaining to the full moon, plenilune, full moon, plenipotence, absolute power, plenitude, fullness, completeness, abundance, sufficiency, plenum, space completely filled with matter, pleochroic, displaying different colours when seen from different directions, pleonasm, redundancy, use of more words than necessary, pleonectic, greedy, covetous. Pleonexia, greed, avarice. Pleroma, fullness, abundance. Pleraphory, full conviction. Plethysmograph, instrument for measuring change in body part size due to blood flow. Plethysmography, measurement of variation in blood pressure. Pleuratropous, laterally flattened. Plexiform, shaped like a network. Plexure, network. Web, interweaving. Plexus, network. Plicated, folded fanwise, pleated. Plication, the act of folding. Plimsoll, rubber-soled canvas shoe. Plinth, rectangular base of column or pedestal. Pleofilm, thin waterproof transparent sheet used for packaging. Pleothermic, of, like or pertaining to periods of above average temperatures. Plissé, fabric with puckered finish. Plose, repetition of word in more expressive sense for emphasis. Plodge, to trudge through anything in which the feet sink. Plotion, release of breath after consonant. Plutocracy, government by the wealthy, plutocracy. Plumacier, worker in feathers, feather seller, plumbago graphite. Plumbeous, leaden, lead-coloured. Plumbiferous, bearing or yielding lead. Plumism, lead poisoning. Plumless, incapable of being sounded. Plumapiscian, of tar and feathers. Plumigerous, plumaged. Plumiped, having feathered feet. Plumilat, downy. Pluralism, belief that reality consists of several kinds or entities. Pluriennial, lasting or surviving many years. Pluriarch, West African stringed instrument like a zither. Pluraliteral, of more than 3 letters. Plurinominal, having more than one name. Pluriparous, giving birth to multiple young in a single birth. Pluripresence, presence in multiple places at one time. Pluriserial, in several rows. Plutarchy, government by the wealthy. Plutocracy. Plutocracy, government by the wealthy. Plutography, description of the lives of the wealthy. Plutolatry, worship of wealth. Plutology, political economy, study of wealth. Plutomania, mania for money. Pluton, mass of rock solidified under Earth's surface. Plutonic, of volcanic or deep origin. Plutonomy, economics. Pluvial, floor-length, open-fronted ecclesiastical garment. Pluviograph, self-registering rain gauge. Pluviometer, rain meter. Pluviose, rainy. Peniometer, instrument that measures respiration. Pneumatics, study of mechanics of gases. Pneumatographer, one who receives and writes spirit messages. Pneumatography, description or treatise about spiritual beings. Pneumatolith, stone in the lung. Pneumatology, science of spiritual phenomena or beings. Pneumatomachy, denial of the divinity of the Holy Ghost. Pneumatometer, instrument for measuring quantity of air breathed. Pneumatomorphic, like a spirit. Pneumatophony, appearance of a spirit, especially the Holy Ghost. Pneumatophilosophy, philosophy of spirits or the spirit world. Pneumatophony, sound caused by a ghost or spirit. Pneumatosis, presence of gas in the body. Pneumograph, instrument for measuring and recording respiration. Pneumography, description of the lungs. Nyx, ancient Athenian place of assembly. Pocious, of, like or pertaining to grass. Pochette, pocket note case or wallet. Pochoir, manual colour stenciling onto a printed illustration. Postulator, cupbearer. Poco curante, uninterested, indifferent, nonchalant, apathetic. Poculation, drinking of alcoholic beverages. Poculent, fit for drinking. Poculiform, cup-shaped. Podagra, gout. Podagrus, gouty. Podalic, of, like or pertaining to feet. Podex, rump, anal region. Podiatry, study and treatment of disorders of the foot. Chiropody, podiform, shaped like a pod. Podobrome hydrosis, smelly feet. Podocarp, stalk that bears the fruit of a plant. Podology, study of the feet. Podoscarf, pedalled boat. Canoe-shaped float attached to feet for walking on water. Podzol, acidic soil with ash-like subsurface layer. Poecilomere, part of an animal's body where colour variations first appear. Poecilonym, synonym, one of a variety of names for a thing. Poêle, broth or stock. Poephagus, eating grass or herbs. Herbivorous. Poetaster, petty poet, writer of contemptible verses. Poetolatry, worship of poets. Poetomachia, contest or quarrel among poets. Pogamogan, wooden club with iron or stone piece on end used by Indians. Pogoniasis, excessive growth of beard. Pogonip, dense fog of suspended ice particles. Pogonology, book or treatise on beards. Pogonophile, one who loves beards. Pogonophobia, fear of beards. Pogonotomy, shaving. Pogonotrophy, growing of a beard. Pogrom, organised massacre. Poiesis, creation. Poikilytic, mottled. Poikilothermic, cold-blooded. Poimenic, pastoral. Pointel, sharp instrument. Pointillism, use of separate dots of pure colour rather than blends. Poise, unit of viscosity of liquids. Poitril, armour for a horse's breast. Poivrade, pepper sauce. Pokerish, causing terror, uncanny. Polaka, stately Polish dance polonaise. Polarchy, government by many people. Polyarchy, polarimeter, instrument for measuring polarized light. Polariscope, instrument for detecting polarized light. Polder, piece of low-lying reclaimed land. Poldermitten, curved reinforced armour for the right arm. Pole, unit of area equal to a square rod. Polemarch, ancient Greek military and civil officer. Polemic, controversial discussion or attack. Polemology, study of war. Polymomania, mania for war. Polemoscope, telescope with angled mirrors for seeing over walls or around corners. Polin, piece of armour for the knee. Policeocracy, government by police. Polyclinic, outpatient department of hospital. Polyosectic, of, like or pertaining to siegecraft or besiegement. Poliosis, premature greying of the hair. Politicaster, petty politician. Politicide, killing of people because of their political beliefs. Politicomania, mania for politics. Pokomania, craze for poker dancing. Polarchy, government by the multitude or a mob. Ochlocracy. Pollard, tree having the whole crown cut off. Pollant, strong. Pollex, the thumb. Pollicitation, promise, especially one not yet accepted. Polliniferous, bearing pollen. Pollinigerous, pollen-bearing. Pollyanna, one who is naively optimistic. Polonaise, stately Polish dance of moderate tempo. Poltophagy, prolonged chewing of food. Poltroon, craven, cowardly. Pulverine, glassmaker's potash. Polyacoustic, amplifying sounds. Polyemia, plethora. Polyarchy, government by many people. Polychotomy, division into many parts. Polycrest, thing or medicine useful in many ways. Polycracy, government by many rulers. Polyarchy, polydemic, native to several countries. Polydipsia, abnormal thirst. Polyurgic, having many functions. Polyethnic, consisting of or derived from many races or ethnicities. Polygenesis, theory that humans derive from many separate origins. Polygynous, of multiple origin or composition. Polygonutic, having several broods in each season. Polygraphy, copious or productive writing. Polyhydrosis, excessive perspiration. Polyhister, person of exceptionally broad knowledge. Polylemma, argument forcing choice between contradictory statements. Polylith, prehistoric monument consisting of many stones. Polyloquent, speaking much, loquacious. Polymania, mania affecting several different mental faculties. Polymath, person possessing knowledge of many subjects. Polymicrian, compressed into a very small space. Polymythy, use of multiple plots in a single story. Polynesic, in multiple separate locations. Polynia, open water amid sea ice. Polyomatus, having many eyes. Polyonym, name consisting of several words. Polyopia, multiple vision. Polyphagus, eating many types of food. Polypharmacy, treatment with many medicines. Polyphyloprogenitive, very fertile, very imaginative. Polyphloisbic, loud, roaring. Polyphlois boisterous, noisy. Polyphone, many-stringed instrument like a lute. Polyphyletic, descending from more than one original type. Polypnea, rapid breathing. Polypod, many-legged animal. Polypragmatist, busybody. Polypsychic, having several souls. Polypsychism, belief that one person may have multiple souls. Polyptoton, repetition of word in same sentence with multiple inflectional endings. Polysarchus, obese. Polysomant, word with many meanings. Polystasius, having many spikes. Polysticus, arranged in many rows. Polystomatus, having many mouths. Polystyle, building having many columns. Polysyllabilingual, relating to polysyllabic languages. Polysyllogism, series of syllogisms where each is basis for next. Polysyndeton, rhetorical device of repeating conjunction for emphasis. Polythalamus, having many chambers. Polytheism, belief in multiple deities. Politicus, producing many or several at a birth. Pomace, crushed apples for cider making. Pomasus, of, like or pertaining to or consisting of apples. Pomade, ointment for the hair. Pomander, ball of perfumes. Pomiculture, growing of fruit. Pomiferous, bearing apples. Pomiform, shaped like an apple. Pomarium, open space around a town within the walls. Pomology, study of fruit growing. Ponceau, poppy red. Ponderation, weighing or weighing up. Pone, card player on dealer's right responsible for cutting cards. Ponent, western. Ponerology, theological doctrine of wickedness or evil. Ponji, thin, soft fabric woven from raw silk. Poniard, small dagger. Pontage, toll paid on bridges, tax for repairing bridges. Pontifice, bridgework, a bridge. Pontist, bridge builder. Pontlevis, drawbridge. Poodle, coarsely looped or nubby fabric. Poop, enclosed structure at stern of ship above main deck. Poop height, meadow plant. Popinjay, conceited person. Popjoy, to amuse oneself. Poplin, corded woven silken worsted. Popliteal, of, like or pertaining to the back of the knee. Popocracy, government by populists. Popple, to flow tumblingly, to heave choppily. Poppycock humbug, nonsense. Poppyhead, raised ornament on top of upright end of seats in churches. Populicide, killing of the population of an area or nation. Poral, of, like or pertaining to paws. Porbagel, shark with a pointed snout. Porcellanous, resembling porcelain. Porcine, of, like or pertaining to pigs. Swinish. Porculation, fattening or feeding of swine. Porge, to make meat kosher by removing veins and sinews from hindquarters. Poriferous, having pores. Poriform, having the form of a pore. Poriomania, abnormal compulsion to wander. Porism, geometrical expression of possibility of multiple solutions. Porlocking, irksome intrusion or interruption. Pawnbroker, one who deals in pornography. Pornorastic, lecherous, bawdy, lewd. Pornocracy, government by harlots. Pornogenarian, dirty old man. Pornolania, desire for prostitutes. Pornomania, obsession with pornography. Pornotopia, perfect setting for the antics of pornography. Progamy, fertilization of seed plants. Poromeric, permeable to water vapor. Porometer, instrument for measuring degree of porosity. Poroplastic, both porous and plastic. Poroscope, instrument for investigating porosity. Porosis, knitting together of broken bones. Porphyrogenitic, of royal birth. Porphyrogeniture, accession of first son born after father's accession. Porphyros, purple. Porphyry, beautiful and valuable purplish stone. Poraceous, leek green. Porrect, to stretch forth, to present. Porriginous, suffering from a scalp disease that causes baldness. Porringer, small dish for soup or porridge. Portatile, portable. Portesse, portable breviary. Portfire, prepared paper cylinder used to fire rockets and fireworks. Portiere, curtain hung over door of a room. Portiuncle, small piece of something, especially of land. Portmanteau, word formed by blending two existing words. Portrive, mayor. Porsaun, archaic trombone. Posh, nonsense. Possigrade, auxiliary rocket on a spacecraft. Positivism, doctrine that that which is not observable is not knowable. Posnet, small cooking pot with feet and handle. Posology, science of quantity or dosage. Possessive, indicating possession. Genitive case. Posset, milk curdled with alcohol used as remedy. Post, after. Postament, frame. Pedestal. Postcenal, after dinner. Postcybal, after a meal. Postconnubial, after marriage. Postdiluvian, after the great flood. Postern, back door or gate. Small private door. Post-exilic, after exile. Postface, concluding note added to end of written work. Postiche, excessively and inappropriately added to a finished work. Posticus, posterior, outward, extros, postil, marginal note, commentary. Postillion, someone who guides post horses. Postjacent, posterior, behind. Postliminary, subsequent. Postliminy, right of returned exiles to resume former status. Postlude, closing piece of music at end of church service. Postmundane, after the end of the world. Postprandial, after dinner. Poststreme, lastly. Postscenium, part of stage behind the scenery. Poststructuralism, belief that there is no objective meaning to a text. Postulant, candidate for a religious order. Postulator, official who presents case for canonization or beatification. Potable, fit to drink, drinkable. Potager, garden laid out in a decorative way. Potamic, of, like, or pertaining to rivers. Potemography, study of geography of rivers, a description of rivers. Potamology, study of rivers. Potation, the activity of drinking. Potatory, related to excessive drinking. Potentiate, to use drugs in combination to increase their power. Potentiometer, instrument for measuring electromotive forces. Pother, choking smoke or dust. Fuss, commotion. Poticomania, craze for imitating oriental porcelain. Potomania, abnormal desire to drink alcohol. Potometer, instrument measuring rate at which plants absorb water. Potshop, small public house. Potter, to busy oneself with trifling tasks. Pottle, small conical fruit basket. Pottle, unit of liquid measurement of 2 quarts or 1/2 gallon. Potto, small nocturnal West African monkey. Poudrin, small ice crystals. Poulard, fattened or spayed hen. Poule, octopus. Pult, young fowl. Pounce, fine powder spread on writing paper to keep ink from running. Poundage, charge for keeping stray cattle. Poundal, unit of force that accelerates 1 pound to 1 foot per second. Pourboire, tip, gratuity. Pourparlor, discussion prior to negotiation. Pourpointerie, quilted armour with studs. Poussin, chicken raised for eating at around 6 weeks old. Powellization, means of preserving timber. Practive, practical, concerned with practice. Predial, of, like or pertaining to or connected with the land or farming. Preposter, prefect of a school. Pragmatica, royal edict that has the force of law. Pragmatism, doctrine emphasizing practical value of philosophy. Prairielon, small prairie. Praultriller, rapid musical trill. Prandial, of, like or pertaining to dinner. Prasinus, leek green colour. Prattle, growing in meadows. Prate, to talk foolishly or sententiously. To tattle. Pratincole, fork-tailed, long-winged Australian bird. Pratinculus, inhabiting meadows or fields. Pravity, wickedness, depravity. Praxeology, study of practical or efficient activity, science of efficient action. Praxinoscope, early cinematograph using series of moving drawings. Praxis, customary practice or conduct. Pre-Adamic, before Adam. Preagonal, immediately preceding death throes. Prealable, previous, preliminary, preceding. Preaudience, right to be heard before another. Prebend, stipend or salary paid to clergymen. Prebendal, of, like or pertaining to stipends issued by a church. Precantation, prophecy, foretelling. Precative, supplicating, expressing entreaty. Precatory, of the nature of or expressing a wish or recommendation. Precentor, leader of the singing of a church choir. Preceptive, concerning rules of conduct, laws or precepts. Preciation, evaluation of the value or price of a thing. Precuse, woman affecting a fastidious over-refinement. Precipitinogenic, causing precipitation. Precision, overly precise person, formalist. Precisive, separating, defining, exact. Precognoth, to take a precognition of. Preconcert, to settle beforehand. Preconize, to proclaim, to summon publicly. Predation, predatory animal, predaceous, living by prey, predatory. Predella, platform for altar, portable altar or decoration upon it. Predestinarianism, belief that whatever is to happen is already fixed. Predevote, foreordained. Predicant, preaching, predicating. Predicative, indicating the predicate. Prefigurial, serving as preface or opening remarks. Prefigure, to imagine beforehand, to foreshadow. Prefulgent, extremely bright. Pregustation, foretaste. Prehensor, something that grasps or seizes. Prelacy, episcopal church government. Prelapsarian, belonging to the time before man's original sin. Prelate, bishop or abbot of superior rank. Prelation, preferment, promotion, eminence. Prelect, to lecture. Prelibation, foretaste, offering of first fruits. Preleography, description or treatise about a battle. Prelusive, of the nature of a prelude, introductory. Premiate, to give a prize or premium for. Premonish, to warn beforehand. Premorse, ending abruptly as if bitten off. Premotion, divine impulse determining the will. Premove, to incite or prompt to action. Premundane, period before the creation of the earth. Prenarial, of, like or pertaining to or in front of the nostrils. Prenticide, killer of an apprentice. Prepense, premeditated, intentional. Prepollence, predominance. Prepone, to reschedule for an earlier time. Prepossess, to bias or prejudice favourably to impress. Prepotent, potent in a very high degree. Preputial, of, like or pertaining to the foreskin. Prerupt, broken off, steep, abrupt. Presbycusis, hardness of hearing during old age. Presbyophrenia, female senility marked by loss of memory. Presbyt, old man. Presbytery, part of church reserved for officiating clergy. Prescind, to cut off, cut short, separate. Precious, prescient. Prescriptivism, belief that moral edicts are merely orders with no truth value. Preseminal, before the onset of puberty, before fertility. Presenium, period of life preceding old age. Presentationism, theory that the mind has direct access to perceived objects. Presentient, prescient, having a premonition. Presentoir, ornamental shallow tray or cup. Presidial, of, like or pertaining to a garrison. Presidial, presidential. Pressable, able to be pressed. Pressed, to loan. Prestigiator, conjurer. Prestriction, blindness. Blindfolding, Preterist, lover of the past. Preterite, signifying past time or a completed action. Preterition, passing over or omission, drawing attention to a thing by claiming to omit it. Pretermit, to pass by, to omit, to leave undone. Preterpluparenthetical, tending to use excessive parenthesis, pedantic. Prevenancy, courteous anticipation of others' wishes. Prevenient, antecedent, preceding, anticipatory. Prevernal, blossoming or foliating early. Prevision, foresight, foreknowledge. Prevoyant, having foresight. Priapian, of, like or pertaining to male reproductive power. Phallic. Priapism, constant erection, licentiousness, lewdness. Pricket, spike or antler used as a candlestick. Pridian, of, like or pertaining to yesterday. Prie-dieu, prayer stool or kneeling bench in a church. Prill, nodule of metal obtained after assaying. Primage, fee paid to loaders for loading ship. Primatology, study of primates. Prime, prayer service held at 6 a.m. Primogenial, first or earliest formed or produced. Primiparous, having borne only one child. Primitia, first fruits. Primitial, of, like or pertaining to first fruits. Primeval. Primitivism, doctrine that a simple and natural life is morally best. Primo, in the first place. Primogenous, of, like or pertaining to the earliest or first developmental stage. Primrose, pale yellow. Princeps, first, especially first edition of a book. Prion, small Antarctic petrel. Priscan, ancient, of early times. Prisoptometer, instrument for measuring degree of astigmatism. Prithee, expression of wish or request. Privatism, attitude of avoiding involvement in outside interests. Privative, indicating absence, deprivation or negation. Privity, privacy, secrecy, secret or confidential conversation. Pro, in favour of, for. Prorata, proportionally. Pro tanto, to that extent, accordingly. Proeresis, the act of choosing. Probabilism, belief that when in doubt one must choose most likely answer. Probabilism, belief that knowledge is always probable but never absolute. Proband, one with a certain feature by which descendants analysed. Probang, flexible rod put down throat to clear obstacle. Probit, unit of measurement of statistical probability. Proboscidate, having a proboscis or long snout. Probosciform, shaped like a long nose. Probolutic for preliminary deliberation. Procacity, petulance, insolence. Procatalectic, lacking the unaccented part of first foot of a line of verse. Procatalepsis, anticipating and answering an opponent's objections. Procathedral, parish church serving as a cathedral. Proselyismatic, inciting, encouraging, exhorting. Procelus, stormy. Procephalic, of, like or pertaining to the front of the head. Procerity, tallness. Prochronism, assigning a date to an event earlier than actual. Procedence, prolapse, falling forward or downward. Procinct preparedness. Proclisis, pronunciation of word dependent on following word. Proclivitus, steep. Procoelus, cupped in front. Procrustean, seeking to enforce uniformity. Procrypsis, protective coloration, proctal, of, like, or pertaining to the anus or rectum. Proctology, study of rectum. Proctor, disciplinary officer at a college or university. Proctoscope, instrument for examining the rectum. Procumbent, lying or leaning forward. Prone. Procuratory, authorization to act for another. Procursive, running forward. Procyanine, of, like, or pertaining to raccoons. Proditor, traditor. Prodrome, initial symptom of a disease. Introductory treatise. Proegominal, predisposing, preceding. Proempreface, proemial, introductory, prefatory. Proemptosis, addition of extra day to lunar calendar every 300 years. Preethnic, of like or pertaining to primitive races. Profectitious, derived from a parent or ancestor. Profligate, debauched, rashly extravagant. Profluent, exuberant, abundant. Profulgent, shining out, radiant. Progeria, second childhood, disease of premature aging. Prognathic, having a jaw that projects forward. Projacent, jutting forward. Projectionism, theory that some apparent qualities of reality are projections of the mind. Progicient, communicating between an organism and its environment. Prolate, having flattened sides due to lengthwise elongation. Prolation, utterance. Prolative, indicating motion alongside or means of motion. Prolegomenon, introductory study or treatise. Prolepsis, anticipation, device where objections are anticipated. Proleptical, prehistoric. Proleptics, prognosis. Prolicide, killing of offspring, killing of the human race. Proligerous, bearing offspring. Prolix, long-winded, garrulous, dwelling too long on particulars. Prolocutor, spokesman, Speaker of the House of Lords. Prolusion, preliminary performance, activity or display. Promachos, champion or defender, tutelary god. Promptuary repository, reference book of facts. Promulgate, make known, disseminate. Pronaos, vestibule in front of a temple. Pronasile, tip of the nose. Pronation, turning hand and forearm so that palm faces downward. Pronograde, walking with body parallel to ground. Pronomination, description of a thing by its qualities rather than its proper name. You've just wandered through a quiet garden of forgotten words, each one a whisper, a rhythm, a resting place for your thoughts. There's no need to remember them. They were here only to guide you, gently, into stillness. If you're still awake, that's okay. Just let the silence wrap around you now. And when sleep comes, let it be soft and full of wonder. Good night.